2,000 years before antibacterial labels and fluorescent supermarket aisles, people living along the Atlantic fringes of Europe were cleaning their bodies, their clothes, and even their tools with a substance so simple it could be made beside a fire. No synthetic fragrance, no petroleum derivatives, no laboratory stabilizers, just fat, ash, water, and time. This is the story of how the ancient Celts discovered soap, how the Romans documented it, and why one of the most chemically elegant cleaning agents in history has been quietly overshadowed by modern detergents. To understand this secret, we need to step back into Iron Age Europe, into the forests and river valleys inhabited by Celtic tribes stretching from what is now Ireland and Britain to Gaul and parts of Central Europe. These were not primitive people fumbling in the dark. They were metalworkers, traders, herbalists, and engineers of daily life. They understood fermentation, dyeing, leather tanning, and preservation. Cleaning was not an afterthought in this world. It was integrated into craft, ritual, and health. Our earliest written clue comes from the Roman author Pliny the Elder in the 1st century AD. In his encyclopedic work, Natural History, Pliny describes a substance used by the Gauls called sapo, made from tallow and ashes, originally applied to the hair. He notes that it was used to give the hair a reddish tint, but what he is describing is unmistakable. It is soap. The Romans themselves relied heavily on oils and scraping tools known as strigils for bathing, yet they observed this Celtic innovation with curiosity. The word soap, in modern European languages, ultimately traces back to this Latinized term sapo, which itself likely reflects a Celtic origin. What began as a tribal craft would later spread across the continent. The secret behind this ancient cleanser is not mystical, it is chemical. When wood burns, it leaves behind ash rich in potassium carbonate. When rainwater filters through that ash, it creates a crude alkaline solution historically called lye. When that lye is mixed with animal fat and heated gently over time, a reaction occurs. The triglycerides in the fat break apart. Fatty acid salts are formed. Glycerin is released. This reaction is called saponification. The result is a substance that can bind to both water and oil at the same time. One end of the soap molecule attracts water. The other end attracts grease. When rinsed, the grease lifts away. This is not a modern invention. It is molecular geometry harnessed by observation and repetition. Imagine a Celtic homestead on the edge of a forest clearing. After slaughtering livestock for winter stores, fat that could not be eaten would be rendered slowly in iron cauldrons. Ash from hardwood fires would be collected carefully. Rainwater would be poured through the ash in woven baskets lined with straw, producing an alkaline liquid that would be tested by touch and experience. Too weak and the mixture would fail. Too strong and it would burn the skin. The rendered fat and lye would be combined and stirred for hours, sometimes days, over controlled heat. There were no thermometers. There were no pH strips. There was only observation. Over time, the mixture thickened. It would be poured into wooden molds or allowed to cool in clay vessels. What emerged was a dense, pale, often slightly coarse soap that could clean wool garments thick with lanolin, hands blackened from forge work, and skin coated in sweat and smoke. Unlike many modern cleaning agents, this soap required no synthetic surfactants. It produced no microplastic residues. It was fully biodegradable. When washed into soil, it broke down into simple salts and fatty acids. The Celts did not frame their knowledge in terms of sustainability, yet their practices were inherently circular. Ash came from wood. Fat came from livestock. Both were byproducts of existing systems. Nothing required extraction from distant refineries. Nothing depended on global supply chains. As Celtic lands gradually fell under Roman influence, and later as Europe entered the early medieval period, soap making persisted quietly in monastic communities and rural households. In fact, some of the most advanced early soap production centers emerged centuries later in places like Marseille and Castile, refining the same basic principles with olive oil instead of animal tallow. However, something shifted in the 19th and 20th centuries. Industrial chemistry discovered that synthetic detergents could be mass-produced from petroleum derivatives. These detergents perform better in hard water. They foamed more dramatically. They could be engineered for specific tasks. Marketing departments quickly equated foam with cleanliness. Fragrance became a signal of purity. Color became branding. Traditional soap, with its simplicity and occasional variability, was pushed aside. What was lost in this transition was not effectiveness, but sovereignty. Ancient soap could be made anywhere there was fat and firewood. It did not require corporate infrastructure. It did not require patent protection. It was local knowledge passed between generations, embedded in daily life. Today, when many people attempt to recreate Celtic soap, they are rediscovering a system that functions without harsh degreasers, chlorine compounds, or synthetic stabilizers. Properly cured traditional soap has a mildly alkaline pH that can clean effectively without stripping the skin's protective barrier to the degree that some modern detergents do. There is an important distinction here. Soap and detergent are not the same thing. Soap is made through saponification of fats with an alkali. Detergents are synthetic surfactants engineered in laboratories. Both remove dirt, but they interact with water and skin differently. Soap molecules form micelles that encapsulate oils naturally. Detergents often contain additional builders, fragrances, dyes, and preservatives that extend shelf life and enhance visual appeal. In an ancient Celtic context, soap was multifunctional. It was used in textile preparation before dyeing wool. It was used to clean animal hides during tanning processes. It was used in basic wound cleansing when diluted appropriately. It was even used to wash wooden tools and cooking vessels. Because it contained glycerin, which is naturally produced during saponification, traditional soap retained a moisturizing quality, often stripped out in commercial processing, where glycerin is removed for use in cosmetics. The absence of synthetic additives did not mean the absence of refinement. Some Celtic regions likely infused their soaps with herbs such as rosemary or yarrow, plants well known in Iron Age Europe. While these additions may have added subtle antimicrobial properties or fragrance, the core cleaning power came from chemistry, not superstition. If you were to recreate this ancient formula today using hardwood ash and rendered fat, you would be engaging in a lineage that predates industrial civilization. However, modern practitioners typically use purified lye for safety and consistency, eliminating the variability of ash leachate while preserving the fundamental reaction. The broader lesson is not that every bottle under your sink is harmful. It is that an effective cleaning system does not require a laboratory to exist. The Celtic soap secret is powerful precisely because it is accessible. In a world where supply chains can fracture and ingredient lists grow longer every year, there is something stabilizing about knowing that ash and fat can produce a cleanser capable of handling grease, grime, and daily life. There is also a subtle cultural amnesia at work. Many assume that natural equals ineffective and chemical equals advanced. Yet soap is chemistry. It always has been. The Celts did not fear chemical reactions. They simply observed them without branding them. Modern analytical chemistry confirms what Iron Age artisans discovered empirically. Fatty acid salts disrupt the surface tension of water. They emulsify lipids. They suspend particles so they can be rinsed away. This is not folklore. It is surfactant science. The idea that ancient people lived in perpetual filth is a myth shaped more by propaganda and selective archaeological interpretation than by reality. Excavations across Celtic Europe reveal grooming tools, combs, and bathing practices. Cleanliness was not a modern invention. It was a cultural value expressed differently. When we revisit ancient technologies like this, we are not romanticizing the past. We are recognizing that innovation did not begin with industrial capitalism. It began with observation of wood smoke, animal fat, and rainwater dripping through ash. The 2,000-year-old Celtic soap secret cleans everything without harsh chemicals because it does not need them. It relies on a molecular structure discovered through repetition and necessity. It is a reminder that complexity is not always progress. Perhaps the deeper reason this knowledge faded from common use is not inefficiency, but inconvenience. Traditional soap requires patience. It requires curing time. It requires understanding proportions. It does not arrive pre-scented in a plastic bottle. Yet in that patience is resilience. When a technology can be produced at the household level, it cannot be easily monopolized. When a system depends on local inputs, it resists global disruption. The Celts may not have left behind instruction manuals, but they left behind a principle that still holds true. Cleanliness can emerge from the byproducts of daily life. Fat, ash, water, heat. These were the original ingredients of an elegant solution, and perhaps the most remarkable part of this story is not that it worked, but that it still works. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can keep improving the channel. See you next time.